Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have kids, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I really hope that my audio isn't screwed up. If it is, then I'm not sure really what to do about it. I couldn't fix it yesterday. Can you hear me? Because I was trying to record with this microphone, and all of a sudden yesterday I was completely garbled. So I didn't know what that meant for the morning grind today. I really hope that you'll let me know if my audio is absolutely garbage. Hey, James. Good morning, James. We hear you. Okay. Phew. All right. I was trying to record some stuff yesterday, and the microphone basically just stopped working. It worked, but it was completely garbled. You couldn't hear, you couldn't understand anything. So, all right. Thank God. Because this is, I don't know what all of a sudden caused this microphone to go out. It's a Blue Yeti. So hopefully the problem just fixed itself. Okay, thank God. Hopefully it'll work. Then I can record something else using the other software then. Maybe it was some kind of temporary glitch. Hey, James. Good morning. Good morning, Mike. Zero the Blade and Zero Theory. We've got all kinds of great people here this morning. Excellent. All right. Today, I thought we would take a look at this. I kind of had a chill day yesterday, And it was actually a pretty good reset day for me. I got to spend a couple of hours for the first time in a long time working on a script, on the Tales of Rabavania script, and was making some progress on that, some good progress. I'm going to do that again today. So it was kind of good. Yesterday was just kind of chill, reset. Probably should cut some grass today, but I kind of wanted to make this another day kind of like that and kind of just try to reset over this entire weekend. And so I was thinking, so what should we look at? And I kind of wasn't in the mood to dive into another one of our big, probably multi-day topics for analysis. Got lots of topics over here. In fact, I hope this, yes, it is. Rivers of London is on this. So this is what I've got, this Rivers of London right here. And I asked Chaosium if they would send me a review copy of Basic Fantasy, but I figure Basic Fantasy isn't called, is it called Basic Fantasy? Basic Fantasy, there is an OSR that's that too, but the Chaosium's Basic Fantasy RPG. And they did send me a PDF of that. So we've got that. But I figured that will be a multi-day kind of analysis because I want to see what they're doing since it's a percentile-based system. But they also sent me a physical copy of this book right here, Rivers of London, which I know nothing about. Apparently, it was just released. I don't know the source material. I don't know the RPG. I don't know what they're doing with it. It might use that system. Come to think of it, I don't know. So does anybody know anything about Rivers of London? Either the book series. This is based on a book series based on the novels by Ben Aronovich. Aaron. So Aaron Onovich. Ovitch. So I don't. So I figured, hey, why don't we just check this out this morning and see what's going on with Rivers of London. If you are here because you are looking for information on Rivers of London, a new game, it's fun to have a kind of brand new game. I think it just came out. It may have come out this month or last month or something like that. I mean, it's pretty new. If you're here looking for that, here's a link to the Ravenkeep Discord server. And also, let's check in and see how Goodnight Sword is doing. So here's a link to the Goodnight Sword Kickstarter. I bet you guys are already in on it, but let's see how we're doing. I haven't looked at it this morning, so I'm going to bring it up. Goodnight Sword. We are now at 39 backers. I wonder if we'll hit 40 today. So we are up to 39. So people are coming in. People are coming in slowly as we go by. So 39 backers. We got 11 days to go. Like I said, we're going to make this short, sweet, and drama-free. So we've got 11 days to go. 39 people have come in for Goodnight Sword. I'm very happy about that. Goodnight Sword, if you are here new, is my medieval fantasy bedtime story, a world of gallantry, chivalry, and rabbits based on the classic story Goodnight Moon. It was illustrated by Adam Botsford. It's the first book in the Tales of Rabavania that's been out, or that is coming out. And also, if you would like to try it out now, there's an animated audiobook linked on the page. So if you've got a young child, younger niece, nephew, younger cousin, friend, a child of a friend who you would like to be interested in fantasy and medieval storytelling, hey, check out Goodnight Sword. And like I said, you could even have them listening to it tonight if you need a bedtime story, because it was read by Brianna De Silva, and then she also animated all of Adam Botsford's art, and it's fantastic. So, all right, so that is going on. Let's check out this Rivers of London book. Let's see what's happening here. So I hadn't even gotten it out of its shrink wrap yet. Well, Rivers of London, the role-playing game. Now, let me move my microphone over here. So the Rivers of London role-playing game. I think becoming a wizard is about discovering what's real and what isn't. So that's by the author here. This Ben, by the author of Rivers of London. Hey, Vision, welcome. Busy day today. Glad I could catch the show. Me too. Yes, please do. Please do like the stream. Like the stream and subscribe if you are watching on replay and you're just finding us. Hey, Neutromancer. Oh, we got more people coming in. Hey, Neutromancer. Good morning. So it says, magic has returned to our world. In London, officers of the Folly, the Metropolitan Police Service's special magic branch, take to the streets to solve cases, catch criminals, and come to grips with the demi-mondi, those who have been irreversibly changed by magic. Rivers of London, the role-playing game, is based on the hugely successful series of novels by Ben Aronovich. You play newly recruited members of the Folly, and together you solve mysteries and explore Newtonian magic against the backdrop of a vibrant and exciting modern London. Setting information and history, including details of how Newtonian magic works in the Rivers of London, plus spells derived from those in the novels. All the rules you need to play Rivers of London, including character creation, character advancement, and the advice for the game moderator. A solo adventure. The domestic, designed to introduce players to the world of Rivers of London and the mechanics of the game. Details on policing in London and how criminal investigations are carried out. The Bookshop, a standalone adventure that further introduces players to the game and magical world of Rivers of London. Neutromaster says, these are their stories. Zero Theory likes Newtonian magic. So this is your base. This is your large standard size RPG book. Has anyone read these books? So this is put out by Chaosium. I think I said that, but this is a Chaosium book, and they did send it to me. They did send this as a complimentary copy, which was very nice of them. When I was asking about their basic fantasy RPG. Okay, so maybe we've got. Do we have a character sheet? We got something else here in the back. What is this? Oh, we got a map. We got a map in the back. We've got a map of London. Paddington. Lots of places to recognize. South Kensington, Westminster. So we've got... I didn't know there was a place called Waterloo in London. Central London, and we've got all the different locations down here on this side. So we've got a legend as well. I used to play Fallen London on my browser, but no relation, Neutromancer says. Okay, so map of London with significant places. And it wasn't permanently affixed in here. It was just put in here, which is nice. Rivers of London, welcome to the next for Rivers of London, welcome to the United States of America. So there's going to be something else here. A follow-up. Hey, I've never seen, well, look at this. Whoa. Looking for stuff in the back. So this is quite extensive biographies of different individuals. So the author, Gary Bedell, has worked as a professional illustrator and designer for over 20 years. I haven't ever seen an RPG that has, of course, they're not all color, but pictures of the people involved like that with such extensive biographies. That's the first time I've seen this. Alyssa has been a professional cartographer since 2012. She's best known for her incredible cityscapes, and stunning details. She clearly has a look going on here. Paul Fricker is a freelance game designer and game writer, the lead system for the lead on Rivers of London. Right here, this guy. So that's cool. I've never seen something like that. Okay, so here we have, though, we do have the character sheets. So what's the difference? We got two different color character sheets. This is Investigator. And I wonder if this is Demimond. Or do you think it's Demimondi? We got a problem of pronunciation going on. Zero Theory says, I'm curious to see if this Newtonian magic will be based on actual Newtonian physics or on Newton the guy and his the guy and his side works in the alchemy and the like? Oh, that's a good question. I guess I would have thought that it was like Newtonian alchemy, but we'll find out. So let's see. This is the investigator info. So it looks like there are two different colors because this says investigator. Oh, this says investigator up here, and this says the demimonde info up here. So I guess you choose which you want to be. We've got a place for portrait, basic information here. So our characteristics are going to be strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, and power. Full and half. Supplemental move. So this could be sort of like we looked at Call of Cthulhu. We looked at Call of Cthulhu, the starter box, and of course I've looked at Call of Cthulhu. We need to look at the full Call of Cthulhu book, but the basic, or the way that Call of Cthulhu had it, it was percentile, and you've got full, but there may have been quarter as well for difficult things. So it's possible that it could be using that. We have advantages and disadvantages. So we were talking about that yesterday as a style of play. Common skills over here, expert skills. So maybe we are in a RPG that's kind of in this family where I was talking about your characters is described by attributes, some kind of advantage and disadvantages, and skills, whatever they call them. Combat skills, damage, we've got hurt, bloody, down, impaired. We've got a place for weapons and magic spells. Neutromancer says it'll be about levitating apples. Yeah, there better be an apple levitation spell. Hey, Jason, good morning. Good to see you. Name, contacts, occupation, backstory, equipment, and case files down here. So then over here on this character sheet, it's a different color, but rather than magic spells down here at the bottom, we've got affinity and manifestations and costs. Signar, quiet people. All right, so that's what our character sheet's like. Strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, and power. Good morning, PH. Good to see you. Good morning. All right, so let's take a look at our table of contents. So we've got forward, an introduction to collaborative storytelling. So introduction, but what is the River of London setting? I want to check that out because I have no idea. What you need to play, the domestic, start here. So we'll check out the Rivers of London setting. The domestic was start here. So it's good to have a place that says start here. Oh, apparently that's a long section. So the domestic, start here, creating characters, skills, the basic rules. So we may go from the Rivers of London setting to the domestic to the basic rules. Now here's, we got to check this out because here's our Newtonian magic right here. Newtonian spells, bringing the Rivers of London to life, a rogues gallery, chapter 8, the bookshop, chapter 9, additional rules, appendices. So Ben here, the author, is getting everything that he wanted. Hey, Patrick. Good morning, Patrick. Ever since I can remember, I wanted my own role-playing game. I lie. It's actually ever since I was given 3 original beige Dungeons & Dragons books in a box all the way back in the late 70s. Either way, it's a long time. Other authors dream of film and television, radio and comic adaptations, and even more recently, a computer game. But what I wanted was a pen and paper role-playing game with maps, player handouts, and funny-shaped dice. Why? It's all about the world building. Lots of authors want that. I want that. Lou's getting that. Oh, by the way, I saw that Lou is going back on Kickstarter for a series of stories that have been written, like a story anthology in Thrones and Bones. Speaking of Lou, I'm hoping he's going to come back on Table Talk once he's on Kickstarter again. Good morning, Among the Damned. Good morning. Okay, I think we know what collaborative storytelling is. But let's figure out, okay, so what is the Rivers of London setting? It says, you don't have to read any of Ben Aronovich's novels or comics to enjoy this game. Everything you need to know about the game's world is contained within this book. Of course, reading Ben's stories is the perfect way to expand your knowledge of the characters and settings once you have started playing the game. Note that we have tried to avoid various novels' major plot spoilers as much as possible, but be warned, there are still little spoilers here and there. One way to spot them is to look for footnotes at the bottom of the page that tell you which book a particular piece of information comes from. If it isn't a book you've read yet, you may want to skip to the next section, although you will see from the next 2 footnotes they don't always mark important plot reveals. When and where is the game set? Rivers of London, the role-playing game, takes place in London in 2016, shortly after the events of the novel False Value. While for many years DCI Thomas Nightingale was the Follies' only active policeman-cum-Newtonian practitioner, i.e. magician, he recruited PC Peter Grant as his apprentice in January 2012 to help deal with the threat posed by London's spirit of riot and rebellion. Thanks to the increase in magic in the world, in 2015, Nightingale and Grant realized they needed to help tackle supernatural mysteries and began drafting the Folly expansion document, which expanded how the special assignment units planned on expanding the ranks. And that's where the investigators come in. What sort of investigators do people play? Players take on the roles of newly recruited members of the Folly. That could be as a police officer or it could be as a civilian consultant of some sort. The choice is up to the player, although they should talk to the GM to make sure their character concepts fit with the type of stories the group wants to tell together. For more on this, see Chapter 1, Creating Characters. The investigators are a team who work together to solve the case file. So we have the case file in here. We've seen several ones that have the case file in there. Zero Theory says, guess I better knock out the novels before playing. Hopefully we won't be going into novel spoilers here. And like Peter Grant, investigators can also be Newtonian apprentices. They know how to cast spells and detect magic, or they can come from a less formal magical tradition and be known as what is known as a hedge wizard. An investigator can be a police officer or a civilian consultant and be able to cast spells. And that's what the player decides when they're designing their character. Likewise, some players may prefer not to have spellcasting characters, and that's fine too, as every investigator brings his own unique expertise and capabilities to bear when conducting a case file. So we've seen case files as parts of RPG settings a lot. So we've got them again here. It says all civilian investigators seconded to the special assessment unit are issued with a Foley consultant card, page 60, which doesn't grant them the exact same powers as given by an officer's warrant card. It does enable them to accompany their police colleagues into places they wouldn't normally be allowed, among other things. We have to confess that this setup isn't 100% accurate when it comes to how criminal investigations are dealt with in London in the real world. Normally, most civilians wouldn't be allowed to open access to crime scenes, suspects, or evidence, even with a consultant's card. But in our world, police officers can't cast magic spells, and London's rivers aren't home to powerful genie locorum. Thus, the world of the game, civilians consultants work side by side with police officers assigned to the Foley. The key point here is that having investigators from a variety of backgrounds makes for a more interesting and entertaining game, which is what this is all about. So let's look over here. The British class system. The world of the Rivers of London is firmly rooted in the British class system, and its threads can be seen running through the novels. The system may not be familiar to those living outside the UK. While there are official grades and classifications, fundamentally it consists of 3 levels: the working class, the middle class, and the upper class. The lines can sometimes get a little blurry, though, and it's possible to move between classes, but it isn't always easy, and the newcomer may not always be welcome. The class a person belongs to is defined by several factors, including their social background, where the class a person belongs to is defined by several factors, including their social background, where they were raised and who their parents were, their level of education, and their profession. Peter Grant grew up on the Peckwater estate. His mom is a cleaner and his father is a jazz musician. He doesn't have a university degree and he speaks with a London accent, so he's working class. DCI Nightingale, on the other hand, is firmly upper middle class. He comes from an affluent family, was privately educated at Casterbrook, a now defunct practitioner school, and speaks with received pronunciation, also known as the Queen's English. Which class you're from can have an effect on the way people of other social classes treat you above and beyond gender or ethnicity. Even today, social elites form networks to support and promote each other at the expense of those from other lower classes, the so-called old boy networks, named after the fact that many of these members attended the same public, private schools together, such as Eton and Harrow. Okay, what you need to play. Dice. Okay, so I think we are using, and it would make sense. I don't know why my light is not illuminating quite like I want it to. Let me bring this down. There, that might be better. Maybe. So it makes sense that this would be based on Chaosium's in-house system. So it looks like that's the same case. So we've got the percentile-based system. I remember reading that, reading about that when we were reading about when we were looking at the Call of Cthulhu base set. So we have bonus and penalty dice as well. So that is, does look like we're doing. Let's see. Start here. All right, we might as well start where we're supposed to start. Start here. This short introductory aims to teach you the basics of the Rivers of London game. You don't need to read the rules before you begin. And if you've already read Ben's short story called The Domestic, don't worry. We've added some extra material with Ben's permission to give it a few new twists and turns. Oh, is this actually... Oh, this is actually this is the solo play. Oh, there's a lot in here. Well, I'm kind of curious about this. I'm not sure if I am in the mood to do this today. That's why this is such a long section. I do love that. I've really liked the games that have come with a solo adventure to help teach it to you. So gather the following: a blank character sheet, copy the one in this book, or download one from chaosium.com, a pencil and eraser, 2 10-sided percentile dice, or you can use a dice rolling app. Now you're ready to play Rivers of London, the role-playing game. Go to entry 1. Does this cover all of the rules? No, but this solo case file does introduce you to almost all of the game's key concepts, such as characteristics, skill values, and luck. We have simplified combat, damage, and magic to smooth the play experience for you, though. We've decided that if this is your first experience of a role-playing game, we didn't want to throw everything at you at once. Instead, the adventure gets you familiar with some of the game terms and basic mechanics, which are then developed into the full rules you read through the rest of the book. To support this, you'll find a short appendix at the end of the adventure that tells you where to find the details of various concepts we use in the domestic. Yes, Zero Theory says, which should be going orc. So I imagine it's an open system, if not already. I think it is. It might already... Well, the orc is not finalized yet, right? I think Chaosium did put out information about it going orc when the first version of the orc was released. And that was something else we were supposed to look at. We could look at the revision of the orc. But yes, Chaosium is going to use the orc as far as I know as well. Yeah, I'm kind of not feeling getting into that. I'll have to come back because I like the solo play. So maybe one day we just do a dedicated solo play, because this looks like a pretty serious solo adventure, which is fantastic, which is great. I just don't think I'm going to get into it right now. All right, so where do we go from there? I like that it provides that for you. The domestic, start here. Okay, let's skip creating characters, skills. Let's go to the basic rules so we know what we are doing here. Could be very similar to the basic RPG that we're going to go over later. So we won't go over it. Maybe not in extreme detail then. The basic rules. Let's see. Oh, we do have. Oh, look, ribbons in here. So a skill roll. Skill roll is determining difficulty. The GM determines the difficulty level for all skill rolls. There are 2 levels of difficulty in the game, regular and hard. Regular difficulty, a task that would challenge a competent person. The player needs to roll equal to or below their investigator's full skill or characteristic value in order to succeed. The level of difficulty should be used in this vast majority of cases. Hard difficulty is a task that would challenge a professional. The player needs to roll equal to or below 1/2 of their investigator's skill or characteristic value in order to succeed. This difficulty value should be used occasionally and only in the most challenging circumstances. So that's what I thought. So we've got statistics. That's why we've got full and half over here, so that you at character creation calculate your full value, which is used for regular difficulty, and then hard difficulty. A roll of 0-1 indicates a critical success. Only a 1% chance of critical success, and that means the investigator has performed outstandingly well and has either successfully achieved their goal to the highest possible degree or optimally, something beneficial has occurred. Think of this as a yes and scenario. A roll of equal to or below half the specified skill characteristic value indicates a hard success. This means that a character has performed exceptionally well and has successfully achieved their goal, whether the difficulty level was hard or regular. If there's something extra that can be achieved beyond regular success, now is the time for the game master to add it in. Regular success. A roll equal to or below the skills or characteristics full value indicates a regular success. Failure or weak success. A roll that is above the specified skill or characteristic value indicates a failure. P.H. Arbeck says, does the game talk about class consciousness, or is it just acknowledging their existence? That's all I saw about it right now. Maybe it's in there to talk about, maybe there's more about it in character creation, or maybe also to understand the role-playing inside particular, inside, for instance, the domestic or the other example game. Example scenario. So a roll that is above the specified skill or characteristic value indicates a failure. This means that the investigator has performed poorly and failed to achieve their goal. Exactly how the investigator has failed is entirely up to the GM, though of course the player may throw in suggestions. Think about the circumstances surrounding the failed roll. Could it represent a failure to act rather than a failed attempt? Did the investigator miss the opportunity to step in and do something because they were too slow to react? Or is this a yes but or no but situation? If it's a yes but, the investigator doesn't achieve their goal to some extent, does achieve their goal to some extent, but at some cost. For example, perhaps they did pick the lock, but it took so long the security guard spots them opening the door. If it's no but, then while they didn't pick the lock, at least no one knows they tried. Remember, complications are good for drama, so it can help take in new story and interesting directions. Sometimes, though, a fail is just a fail. When a character fails a roll, in most cases, they have the option of spending luck to change that failure into a success. For more on this, see Spending Luck on page 113. Initial failure to skill roll should not usually cause the investigator to take damage, depending on the circumstances. Worse things may happen. If the player chooses to push the roll and fails a second time, see Pushing the Roll on page 108. As we've mentioned, a normal failed roll tends to mean that some obstacle has prevented success or the person didn't make a good attempt. I remember pushing the roll from Call of Cthulhu. Let's see. An opposed roll, both sides roll, compare their results. There's always a winner and a loser, even if both roll poorly. So an opposed roll as a failure is instead known as a weak success, because even though it's not a great result, it's still better than a level of success. It's still a better, higher level of success than a fumble. That means although both opponents performed inadequately, they still end up beating, one still ends up beating the other. So a fumble, if the dice reads 100, that's 0, 0, and 0, right. A fumble has occurred, meaning the investigator has performed abysmally. So also only a 1% chance of fumble. Not only did they fail to achieve their goal, but something really bad happens. Something worse than a straight failure. The nature of that misfortune or bad luck is at the GM's discretion, and the options include an involuntary action, page 108. If using a firearm, a fumble may indicate a malfunction causing the gun to jam or misfire. When fumbling a driving roll, it may mean the engine breakdown, a brakes failure, or a blowout. Since it's not 5% of the time, you can afford to, I guess, be worse with that. The chance of achieving a fumble with a die is 1 in 100, but this is increased to any roll of 90 or above if the character is impaired. Oh, so you can get a 10% chance of 1. If the character is impaired, see page 118. So what are these involuntary actions? When a player rolls a fumble or fails a POW roll to see if they are impaired, see page 118. We'll have to see what that is. The GM may compel their investigator to commit an involuntary action. The GM should choose whatever result they feel is most appropriate for the situation from the following list. Alternatively, they could roll 1d10 for a random involuntary action. So these are such things as dropping whatever you're holding, crying out in terror or frustration, saying something inappropriate, unwise, or incriminating, freezing on the spot, sobbing uncontrollably or giggling hysterically with fright, lashes out with a fist, throw a held weapon, or pulls the trigger, backs away or hides, says or does something to get a friend in trouble, putting them in danger somehow, confesses something or begs for mercy or forgiveness, becomes enraged, lashes out, or breaks something. So pushing the roll. If a player fails their initial skill or characteristic roll, they have the choice to spend either a luck point to change their failure into a success, see spending luck, or they can choose to push the roll. Pushing a skill roll provides the player with a second and final attempt to achieve their goal. A pushed roll is only allowed if it can be justified, and it's up to the player to do this. Whenever a player asks, "Can I push the roll?" the GM should not simply say yes or no, but instead should always ask, "What action are you taking to push the situation?" Then the player should describe the extra effort or time taken to justify a pushed roll. If the player is unsure, other players in the GM might offer suggestions. By making a pushed roll, the player is upping the ante and giving the GM permission to inflict dire consequences should the roll be failed a second time. Pushing a roll means pushing the situation to its limit. If you're breaking down a door, pushing the roll may mean throwing yourself at it with no heed for your own safety. Failing the pushed roll might mean taking 1 damage or attracting unwanted attention because of all the noise. Pushing a roll may mean resulting to less than legal means to achieve your goal, like stealing a vital document because you know the owner won't let you see it. Failing the pushed roll may lead to you being caught. If you're searching a room, pushing the roll could mean turning it over quickly. Failing the pushed roll means you've left a real mess, making it obvious that somebody's been there. If you're trying to understand something with read person, pushing the roll can mean studying that person too obviously. If you're picking a lock, it means using a little too much force. You might break your lock picks or even the lock. If casting a spell, pushing the roll may mean channeling every ounce of your willpower into the spell, forcing the formulae to line up properly. Failing the pushed roll risks severely overreaching your abilities and causing yourself lasting harm. All right. So if you pushed success, the goal is achieved. Failing a pushed roll gives the GM free reign over the outcome, which could be damage, 1 or 2, depending on the situation, rarely more, loss of equipment, isolation from the rest of the investigators, capture, and so on. Yes, I think I remember that. So, pushing is a common mechanic in free league games as well. I did not remember that. I thought I remembered that it was also in Call of Cthulhu. So I think that's part of their basic in-house system. Got some information on luck points. Let's see what goes on and makes this a bit more different then. So it does look like we're using... It's not... Let me make sure I get this right. Basic role-playing. Chaosium basic role-playing. I was saying basic fantasy. That basic fantasy is the OSR game. Basic role-playing is Call of Cthulhu system. Oh, so it does say. So we've got Rivers of London. Yes, definitely basic role-playing. Mythic Iceland. I don't know anything about that. Nephilim and Superworld, it says, are all basic role-playing universal game engine system. I think that system was made from scratch. I don't think. I mean, this wasn't. I mean, this uses that system. But yeah, I think it's their made from scratch in-house system. Now let's go back over here to let's look up magic. Let's see what's different here. So yeah, okay, let's go to Newtonian magic then and see what that's about. Let's go to Newtonian magic, 161. All right, so magic is fundamental to the world of Rivers of London. Without it, there'd be no Foley, no Nightingale, and no Peter Grant. At least not in the way that you've come to know them over the course of the novels. So it's important here. But first, we're going to look at two important side effects of magic: vestigia and signar. Or signaire. I guess it's hacked to be more rules light than could be. And I didn't go over everything. Vestigia. Magic leaves an imprint on the physical environment. What Newtonian practitioners call vestigia. Everyone can sense this imprint without necessarily being aware of the fact. Thus, sense vestigia is a common skill with a starting value of 30%. Some people, though, are more attuned to the vestigia around them. Investigators who take magic skill during character creation automatically boost their sense vestigia skill to 60%, as do any Fey investigators. It is also possible for people to hone their senses when it comes to detecting and understanding vestigia. An investigator can improve their ability to perceive vestigia with a few hours of training, even though they lack the magic skill. The Foley has a formal 3-day program for this called Vestigia Sensitivity Training. An investigator without the skill may wish to take this course during downtime between case files, as doing so grants a development point to spend in sense vestigia skill. Alternatively, they can spend general development points to increase the skill during an investigator development phase. As well as being able to sense vestigia, some creatures and beings, such as revenants, ghosts, vampires, feed on vestigia. Vestigia strength. It seems that vestigia can manifest in a huge variety of ways and tends to be registered by humans as a sensation of some sort, a sound, smell, physical sensation, or a combination of all three. However, the amount of vestigia left hanging around can vary widely, which affects how easily they are to detect, and any vestigia the investigators encounter is likely to be one of three strengths: weak, strong, or extremely strong. Weak vestigia, generally weak vestigia has been around, so this is an imprint on the physical environment by magic. Okay, so generally weak vestigia has been around for a very long time. It includes the underlying levels of vestigia that surrounds us in our general environment, sort of like background radiation, just for magic. It's always there, but you can always find it if you deliberately look for it. Also, some materials don't retain vestigia very well, so even recent magic use on or around materials may not leave a strong imprint. Strong vestigia, generally the kind of vestigia left behind by recent magic use or other supernatural occurrences. Vestigia are also generated by human activity, especially that involving strong emotions, such as festivals or football matches, but even some low-key events, such as a village fete, can leave traces. Fete can leave traces. Such vestigia can build up over a long time and can become strong if the emotions creating it become trapped within certain materials that are good at retaining vestigia. Last Phoenix says, like magic auras detectable by magic in traditional fantasy. It sounds like it. Extremely strong vestigia. Really strong negative emotions can leave a stain on the environment. Places such as massacre sites can be saturated with powerful and unpleasant, extremely strong vestigia, which can develop into a hostile force, known either as a despair or a malignancy, depending on its behavior. Even those who haven't honed their senses can well be aware that something bad happened in places like that. Very powerful magic used against it, or in the presence of certain materials, also generates the extremely strong vestigium. Detecting vestigia. When in the presence of vestigia, the GM may ask players for a sense vestigia roll. The player decides whether the vestigia are strong or weak. In some cases, a vestigia may be extremely strong, so the GM may decide to forego the skill roll altogether and tell the investigator what they can sense. Obvious clues like this are indicated in pre-written case files. Those are scenarios. For extremely strong vestigia, usually no skill roll is necessary to sense extremely strong vestigia. For strong vestigia, a regular success permits someone to detect all particular vestigium's elements. For weak vestigia, a regular success permits someone to detect the main element of that vestigium, its core element. A hard success permits someone to detect all of the particular vestigium's elements. Using vestigia in case files. The vestigia sensed in a particular location or attached to a particular subject, object, or person might only provide some background color and depth, but it could equally supply a clue of some kind, either to a person or a place's history or the nature of a crime or those who committed it. For example, if a series of crimes were being committed by the same genus loci, then their vestigia would leave a trace at each of the scenes of infraction, and this would be detectable when the investigators finally meet up with the perpetrator. The same goes for signatures for a practitioner's signar or signaire, which is detected in the same way as vestigia. GM's advice. Don't forget, members of the Foley are trained to carry out an initial vestigium assessment the moment they arrive at a scene of a crime to determine if there are any magical involvement. Just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, sometimes the sensations derived from vestigia only make sense in hindsight. They are subtle clues, quite tangible or obscure, that give an inkling of the truth rather than concrete evidence you could produce in court. It could just be enough to give the investigator a know that something is off about a crime scene, or it might point them in the right direction to look for physical clues and further leads. For example, the song Peter Grant hears when investigating the death of Cyrus Wilkinson leads him to the dead man's connection to jazz and so on. Let's see. Vestigia in environments. Stone soaks up everything around it, meaning some old houses are positively dripping with vestigia. Concrete, almost as good at storing vestigia as stone. Metals, not as good at storing vestigia as stone. Wood, not as good at storing vestigia as metals. Green wood dampens magic and can act as a magic insulator. Plastics, some types of plastics, for instance PVC, retain vestigia very well, some better than metals. Corpses, the human body is terrible at retaining vestigia. Magic strong enough to kill a person results in some vestigia, but even then, it might only last a few days. Zero the Blade says, vestigia sounds similar to soul essence. Okay, so here's this word right here. Here's our pronunciations. Anyone know if that's signaire? Right here? Every practitioner has his own unique signaire, a magical signature. They can be perceived by other practitioners and other members of the demimonde, much the same way as one detects vestigia. Just as an expert can detect whether a painting is a genuine old master by studying the brushstrokes and technique, so can a practitioner detect subtleties in the casting of a spell that distinguishes who performed it. Each practitioner has their own unique signaire. An element of a master's signaire is passed on to any apprentices they may teach. But elements of the master's is passed on to the apprentices. In the novels, Peter Grant senses Nightingale's signare as being like sounds of cymbals, as heavy as a mallet, and as sharp and as controlled as the point of a needle. There's also a tick-tock precision and the smell of willow. This tick-tock precision is passed on to Leslie May, whose signare combines the tick-tock elements with the razor's strop and seagull's cry. As signare and vestigia are related, signare are detected in the exact same way, using the sense vestigia skill. Fey investigators generally don't have signare. Anyone successfully using sense vestigia on a Fey investigator simply becomes aware of something strange and otherworldly about them. The investigator choosing the magical advantage during character creation and subsequently takes the magical skill as one of the 6 starting skills needs to create their own signare, so other practitioners in magic of the demimonde can recognize them for who and what they are. To create a signare for your investigator, that's what it sounded like, Sable, the last Phoenix, rather, I'm sorry. So organic things are worse at storing this vestigia thing. Yes. Stone, good. Concrete, good. Metals, good. Wood gets worse. Well, some plastics are very good at retaining vestigia. So to create a signare for your investigator, either choose one sound, one smell, or one sensation from table 10, or if you can't or would rather not decide, roll D100 on each of the 3 columns instead. Choose to keep any 2 of them and discard the third. If you don't like what you've rolled, roll again, or choose this time. Feel free to adjust the description as you wish. The listed entries are there for inspiration. Alternatively, create your own signare using the basis for your own ideas. Your investigator is being trained by a character with a known signare. You should incorporate one aspect of the teacher's signare into your own or a third element. So roll D100. We've got lots of that over here. Sound, smell, other sensation. So it says roll D100, choose any 2 and discard the third. Well, I guess I should do that. All right, so what do I get for my possible magic signature? 71. So this will be sound. 71. A short, sharp grunt. For smell, petrichor. Man, we're coming up with all kinds of petrichor is a pleasant smell that I'm glad it's a pleasant smell. A short, sharp grunt. I'm glad I'm not making an unpleasant smell after that when I cast a spell. So that says a pleasant smell that frequently accompanies the first rain after a long period of warm, dry weather. Oh, I need to use that word more often. So petrichor. Okay. So that's what that is. And then other sensations. 91. A moment of dizziness. I don't know. So I've got to take 2 of those. All right. Well, I don't have to. I could re-roll. But if I wanting to, yes, determining how his Victorian magic smells. Right. I think if I had to choose those, I don't know. The dizziness doesn't sound very good. I don't know. The grunt also doesn't sound very good. I'll take the petrichor though. I guess I would take the grunt. The dizziness, I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Like, what's another option? 68 for a sound. 68 sound is creaking floorboards. Okay, well, that's better than the grunt. What's another possible sensation? 74. Walking home from the other sensations. Walking home from the pub by moonlight. Well, petrichor and walking home from the pub by moonlight, I think I would take. Among the Damned says, the Vestigia is a very creative concept, intelligently done. But is this game designed for a whodunit niche community of gamers rather than the OSR type broader audience of gamers? Oh yeah, this is not OSR. This is not OSR. This is based on basic role playing by Chaosium, which is not OSR. This is a different animal. The Last Phoenix says, maybe they meant roll 2, pick 1 on every table. Maybe. Well, and yes, true. The Last Phoenix says, and the creaking floorboards of the pub's porch as you step out. Yeah, that's actually a good one. That one makes a lot of sense. That one does too. Hello, Stray. Good to see you. Zero Theory says, I think Vestigia comes from the idea of some psychics and the idea that some psychics and spiritualists believe stone and castles absorb spiritual vibrations. Thus, that's why they are haunted. Ah, you're probably right. So that's why, so a castle would be really good at retaining these magical energies. You are probably right. Okay, so Newtonian spells. A spell is a series of forma strung together to achieve an effect, while a ritual is what it sounds like, a sequence of forma arranged as a ritual with certain paraphernalia to help move the process along, said Nightingale. They tend to be older spells from the early part of the 18th century. So now we figure out what the Newtonian magic is. So spells from the Newtonian magic, spells from the school of Newtonian magic are cast by forming shapes in the mind, to which the Latin word is attached, known as a forma. Different formae have different effects. For example, lux is the forma for light. As a single forma, it can be used to cast the spell that many wizards learn first, wear light, page 182. Spells that use a single forma are referred to as first-order spells because they are relatively simple to cast. Higher-order spells use multiple formae strung together to create more complex spells. Roughly speaking, the number of formae used to create the spell determines the order of the spell. A selection of spells based on those found in the novels will be presented later in this chapter. See spells. Ben says, so note from Ben here. So I like that the author here is so involved. It's what many of us want. Newtonian magic in the world of Rivers of London is complex and involved. A system that reflected all its nuance and idiosyncrasies would be longer than this book and probably not much fun. By necessity, the system presented here abstracts much of that complexity to smooth out the game-playing experience. Well, David and I talked about that a lot. Storytelling in multiple formats or multiple media. Storytelling in multiple media. So when you're trying to tell the story in novel format, you can have room for a lot more of that kind of complexity and stuff like that. So you're not seeing an exact replica. This is storytelling Rivers of London in tabletop RPG format. So you necessarily have some changes. I'm fine with that. That's just, you have to deal with that when you've got different mediums. I like linking the magic system to Newton. Not many people know he was an occultist and magician, and not the party tricks kind of magician. Right. So, to be able to cast spells, an investigator must first choose the magical advantage during character creation. Once done, they can choose magic as one of their 6 starting skills. Starting investigators with the magic skill begin with 3 spells. 2 first-order spells, 1 mastered, 1 unmastered, and 1 second-order spell unmastered. Some spells, particularly those from higher orders, have prerequisites for learning them. An investigator must always have the correct prerequisite for spells and any spell they wish to acquire during character creation or learn during the investigator development phase. GM's advice. Why so few spells? Well, the investigators in a standard Rivers of London game have limited experience, so they haven't really had the opportunity to learn much in the way of magic just yet. Remember, in Rivers of London, Peter Grant spends most of the first half of the book only knowing how to cast Wearlight, and he doesn't learn how to cast Fireball until Moon over Soho. If you want your investigators to begin the game with more spells, allow the players to make use of the optional Spellcaster Experience package during character creation. See Investigator Experience Packages, page 309. PH says, if Newtonian magic is a craft, Einsteinian magic should be an analog to wild magic. So Newtonian apprentices, the safe and most effective way to learn Newtonian magic is to be taught by an experienced practitioner. All investigators beginning the game as a Newtonian practitioner's apprentice, like Peter Grant is to Nightingale. Start with Wearlight as their mastered spell, after which the choice of any spell is up to the player. A common second spell to learn is Impello. These are both first-order spells. In a UK-based game, the only way for an investigator to become a full Newtonian apprentice like Peter Grant is to be introduced into the Society of the Wise. Before they learn any spells, DCI Thomas Nightingale is their master, assisted by Varvara Sidorovna Temonia. See their write-ups. The GM should encourage the player to explain how their investigator came to the Foley's attention and was thereby taken on the apprenticeship during the step 5 of character generation. If an investigator already knows how to cast spells before they join the Foley, they are classed as a hedge wizard, though Nightingale and Varvara will undoubtedly be responsible for further training they receive. Hedge wizards, so this is the practitioner's oath here. Investigators who are also practitioners are expected to swear an oath upon joining the Foley. By my troth, page 54. Whether they are police officers or civilians. Police officer practitioners do so in front of the commissioner and DCI Nightingale, promising to keep secret what they're taught, among other things. For the exact, so you've got an oath of secrecy here. For the oath's exact wording, see Game Moderator's Advice, page 217. The civilian oath is nearer to the one taken by Patrick Nightingale and his associates. It's likewise accompanied by suitably binding non-disclosure agreement separate from the one required for the Foley's consultant's card. Borean and Einsteinian magics. I bet there's something we can do with that. Zero Theory. Knowing stones amplify absorb spirit vibrations is very creative. May edit that spirit explanation into my own project. Yeah, I'm thinking that's something that could also be used as well. The term hedge wizard, or more rarely hedge witch, is an umbrella term used by many practitioners to being a formally trained for many alternatives to being a formally trained Newtonian practitioner. Some investigators may have spontaneously discovered their ability, while others may have been taught by rogue practitioners or a practitioner from another school of magic entirely. A choice of spells for a hedge wizard is entirely open, but again, they should start play with 2 first-order spells, one of which is mastered, and a second-order spell which is unmastered. Mastering a spell. As we learn in the novels, casting a spell carries inherent risks, including hyperthaumatological degradation, HTD, known in some U.S. circles as Riebenstock's syndrome, but here, through practice, individual spells could be mastered. A mastered spell is safer and more reliable than an unmastered one. Apprentice practitioners schooled by a master of Newtonian magic begin play with the spell Wearlight, already mastered. Hedge wizards begin play with one mastered first-order spell of their choosing. Once a spell is mastered, should we look up what Wearlight is? Bringing the Rivers of London to life. Oh, so this is 5th-order spells. So that's a first-order spell. Boosting a spell. Oh, spell lists right here. Look. First order. Aqua, Flashbulb, Impello, Noisemaker, Rock Drill, Dari, Snapdragon, Terra, Werelight. Second order, base cost 2 magic points. Impello spell tree. So it says something about knowing Impello. Here is Werelight spell tree. So Werelight has its own spell tree right here. Werelight. Prerequisites none. Generates a small ball of bright light about the size of a golf ball with the brightness of a domestic light bulb. The standard Werelight gives off no heat. Werelights do not usually move of their own volition, but while on the caster's hand, they move with it. Or the caster can position them in static locations. See Light Bulb and Bumblebee for mobile variations of the Werelight spell. A Werelight lasts for 5 minutes. Boosting it, spending 1 additional magic point increases the brightness of the light created or generates an additional ball. Boosted with 1 magic point, the light is so intense that it's painful to look at and so could illuminate a large hall. Prior to the end of the spell's duration, 1 additional magic point can be spent to sustain the spell for another 5 minutes. Ghosts are drawn to the magical energy of a Werelight, and they enjoy feeding from it. While a ghost feeds, the Werelight's color slowly changes from a soft white, milky blue to a yellow to red, dark crimson. The ghost becomes visible and is likely to converse with the caster. Well, that sounds fun. Mastered. Change the brightness of the light, sort of like a domestic light bulb on a dimmer switch. The caster can also change the Werelight's color, even shifting down the spectrum to something barely visible. Cast at very low power, the Werelight produces a soft glow without blowing nearby microprocessors. It can also be modified to go beyond the range of visible light into infrared and thus creating heat. I have a nice low-powered Werelight that I can conjure in an interview room without blowing all the surveillance. Okay. So that's why that's important. It says casting at a very low power, the Werelights produce a soft glow without blowing nearby microprocessors. So I have a nice low-powered Werelight that I can conjure in an interview room without blowing all the surveillance. You'd be amazed at how often I have to use it. My latest refinement was to add a Syndra Forma so I can park it over my shoulder and use it as a reading light. That's from the Hanging Tree. So Werelight spell tree. Werelight, let's see exactly what this means here, but that's what Werelight is. That most of our investigators would know. So once a spell is mastered, the player should check the mastered box next to the spell's name on the caster's on the character sheet. A mastered spell gains a bonus die to the magic skill roll made to cast it. So that makes it easier to cast. The bonus, I think, is like taking the place of your 10s, an alternate 10s roll. During each investigator development phase, a player has the option of spending 1 development point to select one of the investigator's unmastered spells and mark it mastered. An investigator must have 2 spells of a given order mastered before they can master spells of the order above. To begin with, an investigator can only master first-order spells. Once they have mastered 2 first-order spells, they have the option of mastering a second-order spell, and so on. Once an investigator masters a spell, it is mastered permanently. I like the idea. I mean, GURPS has the idea that different spells you can understand at different levels, and I like that. D&D is very much, this is the spell, you either know it or you don't. But I like having multiple levels to that. This isn't as many levels as GURPS, but that's okay. It adds that flavor in there without 30 levels of knowing the spell. So this section takes you through how casting a spell over here. So a magic skill roll must be made when attempting to cast a spell unless the caster is not pressed for time. Each spell requires a certain number of magic points to be spent before it's cast. It takes 1 combat round or the narrative equivalent to cast a spell, the same amount of time it takes to throw a punch or fire a gun in combat. Various factors affect whether or not the spellcasting roll gains a bonus die or incurs a penalty. The standard rules for multi-bonus or penalty dice apply to casting rolls. We skipped over that part. Magic points must be expended to cast spells. Remember, the investigator begins the game with magic points equal to 1/5 of their power. Okay, so their POW. Okay. Oh, so POW, that was one of our major stats. That POW roll. So talking about a POW roll, that was a stat. So Kylo Ren didn't actually use the Force. He used first order spells. I like it. Last Phoenix. Let's see. I'm kind of interested in the world building. So boosting a spell, spending more magic points. So like Aqua, for instance. Okay, so for instance, ice. Okay, so the Aqua spell tree. Is there something on reading this? Oh wait, here is hyperthaumatological degradation. Investigators may be tempted to overuse magic, but in doing so, they put themselves in real danger. When a character overuses magic, they risk suffering from the effects of HTD, which is the hyperthaumatological degradation. Oh, right here. Which can cause them physical damage. In the Rivers of London books, the effects accumulate over time, leading to the telltale signs of a brain that looks like a diseased cauliflower. In the game, HTT is simplified into a die roll for immediate effects. If a character fumbles a magic roll when casting a spell, fails a pushed spellcasting roll, or continues to cast spells when they've run out of magic points, they must make a power roll. If they fumbled a pushed spellcasting roll, the power roll incurs a penalty die. The result of the power roll determines how badly injured a character is by their overuse of magic. Fumble, the character's magic points are reduced to 0 and they suffer severe physical trauma, such as a stroke, heart attack, or aneurysm. They immediately suffer 5 damage, a fatal blow. If they do not and cannot spend 30 points of luck straight away to reduce damage to a mortal wound, they die. Oh, so you can die directly. Ugh. But that's a fumble. Fail. A character's magic points are reduced to 0 and they immediately suffer 4 damage. Regular success. The character's magic points are reduced to 0 and they suffer 2 damage. Hard success. The character's magic points are reduced to 0 and they suffer 1 damage. Critical failure. The character's magic points are reduced to 0, but they suffer no damage. Okay. GM's advice. Remember, the base cost to cast a spell is equal to its order. So, for instance, I want to know. So here are our. So let's look back here on our spell tree here and look down here. So we're color coded so that a spell that is, I guess that's greenish blue, has no prerequisites. This purple is a single spell, it says. A orange is multiple spells. This is a single mastered spell and multiple mastered spells. See text. So this is the spell list. The investigator can learn. The spells the investigator can learn are listed here by order along with base casting cost. Aqua flashbulb. So for instance, Aqua, but see, Aqua has its own spell tree over here. Aqua has as an asterisk over here. It says it indicates spells which can be boosted once mastered. Oh, and this flower over here indicates Society of the Rose spell. So here we've got first order Aqua notes I. Okay, so I plus Impello equals water bomb. Water bomb going to third order goes to glitter bomb or ice blast. Aqua mastered fourth order. Aqua in nebula oborii. Aboria. I don't know, but we do have flying ice saw over here. So aqua, prerequisites none, a simple forma used to generate a sphere of water the size of a ping pong ball just above the caster's palm. Useful if you need a source of water in a hurry. Boost, spending more magic points increases the amount of water generated. Each additional point forms an additional ball of water to make the existing ball of water larger. Impello is a forma used to push, pull, or levitate objects. This is usually the second spell that a Newtonian apprentice is taught. One limitation of Impello is the caster cannot lift themselves from the ground, not even by lifting something to which they are attached. This spell is useful for pushing an opponent back a meter or yard, thus potentially enabling a character to flee. If a target object is small, something you can conceal in one hand, the GM may ask for a successful power roll to accurately target the object. The effect of Impello is comparable to an invisible hand that can be used to push, pull, or lift a target. In a situation where GM would call for a strength roll to test whether the character is strong enough to move the object, the GM should instead call for a power roll. Impello could easily levitate an apple with no power roll required. There we got. We have apple levitation. We have apple levitation. This is not a drill. As was called, we have apple levitation. Impello could easily levitate an apple with no power roll required, but if lifting or pushing something heavier, the GM should call for a power roll. The difficulty level of the power roll should be set by the target's strength, determining the difficulty level, see page 105. Alternatively, if used against a character rather than an inanimate object, the GM should call for an opposed power versus strength roll. Although the basic Impello spell isn't intended to inflict harm, it can cause damage if the spellcaster successfully used it to push an opponent down some stairs. If the use of Impello causes something to happen in the story that would obviously cause damage, the GM should refer to Table 7 Other Forms of Damage. We sat down on opposite sides of the lab bench, and Nightingale placed an object between us. It was a small apple. Impello, he said, and the apple rose into the air. It hung there, rotating slowly, while I checked it for wires, rods, or anything else I could think of from the rivers of London. See, here is they had to do it. The Last Phoenix says they had to do it with calling it Newtonian magic. And apparently it is in the Rivers of London book right there. Impello spell tree. I still don't completely understand all of this. I guess. So a second order spell is Invisible Catch. So you would have to know Impello before you could do Invisible Catch. And Impello, I would also need to know Wear Light to get Wandering Light. Well, I guess, okay, so I guess that makes sense. So do I find Wandering Light under second order? Yeah, I do. I find second order. So I guess, okay, so purple was a single spell. Okay, so I guess Invisible Catch is just a spell that I can learn as a second order spell after learning Impello. But if I learn Impello and Wear Light, and I add Impello and Wear Light, that is a second order spell called Wandering Light. So I did see Wandering Light was over here. So let me look up Wandering Light. Wandering Light is Impello plus Wear Light. Uses Lux Impello to create a Wear Light that bobs along with the caster in a fixed position. The light can be behind you, to the side of you, or in front or above. The light lasts 5 minutes. Boost. Each additional magic point allows the caster to increase the size or the brightness of the light created. Prior to the end of the spell's duration, one additional magic point can be spent to sustain the spell for another 5 minutes. So I cast a simple Lux Impello combo, which puts a yellowish Wear Light above 2 meters, about 2 meters above my head, where hopefully it would bob about after me like a balloon, only brightly lit. Foxglove Summer. So, very different magic system here. Sixth order spells. All right, we got a little bit of time left. So bringing the rivers of London to life. At its heart, the Rivers of London universe revolves around the interactions of two very different worlds, one of magic and fantasy and the other of everyday humdrum reality. For games based in Britain's capital city, those worlds are represented by London's demi-monde, particularly Mama Thames and her daughters, and the agents of law enforcement, the Metropolitan Police Service. While their interactions may frequently be fraught with difficulty and misunderstanding, they are fundamental to creating the rich and engaging atmosphere within the game. Thus, you, the game moderator, must learn to portray the mundane along with the special. With that in mind, the first half of this chapter aims to provide background details on various aspects of law enforcement in Britain, as well as details of how criminal investigations are carried out in the real world. So we've got law enforcement in London. There is no one police force governing all of the UK. Each county has its own service with its own uniform and internal structure. So what goes for the Met doesn't necessarily apply elsewhere. However, policing in Britain, and therefore London, is said to be by consent, i.e. with the common consent, cooperation, and approval of the public, based on Robert Peel's 9 principles of policing, although they probably weren't actually written by him. All police services have some commonalities, though. Each has a team of officers who deal with non-emergency and emergency responses, as well as general beat duties. They all have a criminal investigation department and also specialized units. In an ideal world, all police officers would be infallible upholders of the law for every section of society, but in the real world, this has proven time and again not to be the case. While there has long been official scrutiny regarding the actions of its officers, the state of British law enforcement was acknowledged to be deeply problematical by the 1970s and 1980s. A huge push was made to address problems and improve professionalism within the force as a whole, but there are still ongoing issues with regard to institutionalized racism, discrimination, and wrongdoing. The Rivers of London novels acknowledge the British police are not always shining paragons of law enforcement that they could or should be. For example, Peter Grant has been subject to racial abuse from so-called colleagues by profiling by fellow officers while out of uniform. Many police officers across the world would have been accused to varying degrees of racial or religious profiling when it comes to identifying subjects, with some officers focusing purely on a particular ethnicity or religion when it comes to the investigation of certain types of crime. How much of these issues you wish to portray in your game is up to each individual group and is something the GM should discuss with their players. Some groups may wish to explore police discrimination as part of their game, while others may not. See, it's not gritty on page 218. It's not gritty. The Rivers of London books take place in an idealized version of reality. There is violence and murder, but the gory details are passed over lightly, and characters tend to shrug off experiences that would, in real life, hurt them emotionally. Nobody quits the job due to grinding stress, and it takes 7 novels before Peter Grant even admits the post-traumatic disorder might be an occupational risk. Sexism and racism are certainly flagged up as existing, but they are not dwelt upon. The Metropolitan Police Service is a meritocratic, equal opportunity bunch just trying to do the right thing. Corruption, brutality, and systematic racial, homophobic, and misogynistic bullying, both internal and external, may come to light in the real world, are, in the fiction, largely under control, and the police are, above all, professionals. Police budgetary resources are something to grumble about, not slashed to the point where law and order are in jeopardy. Most working-class criminals are just ordinary folks making a living. And the social work end of police activity, attempting to keep peace in a populated riddled with pockets of poverty, social marginalization, alcohol abuse, drug addiction, and mental health problems, is almost entirely missing. So if you want to stick to the feel of the original books when using the London setting, remember the following points. The Met are the good guys, and the stories are told from their point of view. Individual officers may be grumpy, unhelpful, or even crooked, but this is no more than a mild impediment to the investigators. The system itself is largely benign, and the status quo is worthy of being upheld. Punch up, not down. Peter Grant is, like most police officers, a working-class lad who really distrusts those he deems posh and assumes that probably they have something to hide. If you create a genuinely sociopathic or cruel boss villain, along the lines of the faceless man, they should be entitled and wealthy, or not human at all. Organized Newtonian magic in Britain up until World War II was an exclusive gentleman's club, and this legacy remains. The Little Crocodiles cadre of ethnically challenged magicians originated from the most privileged white male Oxford University educated social background. See Little Crocodiles on page 263. And Lady Helena's Linda Limmer's matriarchal tradition is upper class too. That looks like the Society of the Rose. Let's see. So that was running. Is there something else we should look at here? Like more world building? The Rogues Gallery. So the bookshop, that looks like another adventure. Additional rules, like playing Fey investigators, combat revisited, wounds and healing revisited. Welcome to London. What is 259? Oh, this chapter contains spoilers, potentially lots of them. We've tried to draw a veil over some of the biggest surprises to be found in Ben's stories, but if you haven't read all the books and graphic novels, you may wish to check out what sections have footnotes to identify which ones you might want to avoid, at least for now. Oh, maybe we won't go into that then, because I don't want to go into spoilers here. But this looks like more stuff about the world of London specifically. Casey, the Lost Mummy. What do you think? I thought it was fun getting into something new. This is not one that I would have looked at because I was not familiar with the world or the stories. So I really appreciate Chaosium for sending this to us to allow us to have this tonight, or this morning, to allow us to take a look at this. I am kind of curious about the solo play. So I think what I will do, I think I will do the solo play sometime when I'm feeling up to it and I'm feeling maybe ultra creative or something if I've come off of a good writing session or something like that. Maybe we try the solo game to see what it's like and to see see if we like it. So again, thank you very much to Chaosium for sending this over. This looks really interesting. Interesting world building, it looks like. Let me take this down. Let's see. Did we come up with... Oh, we still have 39 backers. All right, what is today? Sunday? I'm losing track of all time. I'm still going to try to have a chill day today, although I'm going to try to cut some grass. I hope that everybody else has a wonderful day as well. I hope that you have a productive day, a creative day, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Grind on, everybody.